Today's video or podcast, according to where you're listening or watching from, is going to be on the Ministry of Education and their press conference about the physical reopening of schools. But it was always intention to be that. I looked at that video a while back and I decided, okay, I was going to do something on that. But in the meantime, I saw this story about our Prime Minister calling a well-known social activist, I guess, and businessman in Trinidad and Tobago. Our Prime Minister told him that he can kiss his derriere, his behind, his ARSE. And well, the businessman came out with this revelation a while back, well, not a while back, earlier, and said that the Prime Minister told him this and cussed him out. And the Prime Minister admitted to it. He said, yes, that was me. Those emails are correct. So I am going to talk about that a little first, and then we'd get into the Ministry of Education, because that's some interesting stuff. Although the press conference for the Ministry of Education was something like 40-something minutes long, 42 minutes I believe it was, and beautifully for me it was recorded on YouTube, so I listened nearly everything on 2x speed because I just don't have the time for that. And even at 2x speed, that entire thing felt like majority a waste of time. That's why it would be very difficult for me to be like a regular journalist going to some of these press events and sitting there for an hour to hear 90% of the meeting being formalities and greetings minister and permanent secretary. It's tedious, but we'll go through that. But as I said first, we're going to talk about the Prime Minister, because I said previously, was that my previous video or the video before that, where we were talking about the Prime Minister and his tone and how he speaks about things. And here we see it again. Now, it could be understandable in the context of this businessman and social activist isn't an unknown character. Obviously, there would be history between him and the Prime Minister. And I believe not too long ago, he would have been in some of his lives, in some of his videos online, berating the Prime Minister and using likewise language to that which the Prime Minister used. But again, this man is a businessman, a private citizen, while you are the Prime Minister of the country. There's still a difference. So before we get into that, if you haven't clicked that like button yet, please do click that like button, tap it, smash it, whatever, and drop a comment, tell me what you think. Also, if you are interested, these Mindful jerseys and hats that you see behind me, they are for sale as part of the whole Mindful brand that I'm creating, and you can help support the podcast and the videos if you'd like to, or if you won't like to support that way, you can support by, again, clicking that like button or dropping a comment or being subscribed. Whatever you do, I'm still going to be doing these. So out of The Guardian, they got the confirmation. PM confirms, telling Ishmael, kiss my AR and 2 asterisks. At least to his credit, the Prime Minister didn't outright use the other word for donkey. He used the English version, the British version. He told him to kiss his arse. So I guess that's not a cuss. That kind of covers it in that sense. And he told him also to go to hell, just by the way. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley has confirmed that he did tell businessman and Breaking Barriers host Inshan Ishmael to kiss my AR2 double asterisks in an email exchange between the two on September 23rd, but called on Ishmael to provide context. Ishmael on his show last night produced a redacted email from the Prime Minister with only the first and last 2 lines visible. It began with Inshan Ishmael, you can kiss my... yes, and ended with life or business, so you go to hell. You are overdoing it now. It was signed KR. Why is he blurring out the out part of it? It has to be in context, Rowley said when asked about the email last night. And the context is there. You can see, and I believe I'll post the email thread, or at least a link to it. And in the email, I saw on Twitter some people were defending the Prime Minister, saying this in that he was saying this in his private capacity. It was a private email between the two, and I understand in your private capacity, even as a public minister, well, obviously you'd be saying things in a private capacity. But it would seem in the email that Inshan Ishmael sent out was copied to a number of people. Although the reply that the Prime Minister sent was sent only to him, the first email was seen to be copied to quite a few people. And then it wasn't a specified attack at the Prime Minister unless he misunderstood it. So I don't think it's fully a private thing. Enshan's problem was with the Forex and the acquisition of Forex, saying that some alleged friend of the government, in his new role in one of his private businesses, and his son reportedly has unlimited access to foreign exchange, and he is allowed to import cars with this foreign exchange, while other businesses are struggling to get even $5,000. And Inshan is saying that this has caused him to close his business for the first time in many years. And this was the response the Prime Minister gave. Without all other context, watching just the email thread alone, it doesn't seem like a fair response to the question. And the question was aimed, it seems like many of the questions were aimed more at the media houses instead of the Prime Minister. And he took personal offense with this, apparently. And this was the entirety of the Prime Minister's response to it. Not the blurred out part, so we could know the entirety of it. Inshan Ismail, you can kiss my etc. How dare you attempt to associate my name in your slander and conspiracy foolishness? So because the name being blurred out was the CEO of the First Citizen Bank, I believe that was the bank, we don't need to blow out that. That gives you the right and license to link me to him in some wrongdoing with his business. For your peace of mind, I barely know the man and certainly know nobody in his family and have absolutely nothing to do with any aspect of his life or business. So you go to hell. Go to hell is in caps, by the way. You are overdoing it now. KR. And Inshan's response was, I am overdoing it? Kiss your behind? That is difficult. I would not be able to tell the difference between that and your head. You asked for that. And you expect respect. You are the one that have a say with every state board. So don't come with this ish that you do not know the man. He was on FCB's board as well. So come again. This week I shut down my company after 23 years in operation due to the blatant fraud being allowed to continue by the FIU and the Integrity Commission, who have companies sourcing millions of US dollars and Great Britain pounds from God knows where, over $1 million US in vehicles being imported a month, when most cannot even get 5,000 stinking dollars, and no one bats an eye. When I saw the recent list of donors to the Balizé House project, yes, I have friends all over, I had to laugh. These fellas are being well rewarded now. Imagine the TTPS fleet is only 40% operational, but all you want to spend 1.4 million on Panyard, and then he goes on with some other grouses he has. Now, I honestly do not know the full details of what goes on in the Forex business. I find it so confusing, and personally, I am of the view when things seem so extremely hard to understand and figure out, I think someone is doing that on purpose. Many people like confusion. When you see a system that is supposed to be simple to understand, extremely convoluted, chances are there's some corruption going on there. Because when things are so confusing and convoluted, it's easy for those who would like to do nefarious manipulations inside there to do it. And personally, I don't think I am someone that has a lot of difficulty understanding things, but I don't quite understand what's going on with our Forex. And I understand Mr. Ishmael's grouse, because if they are saying you cannot get any foreign exchange, and you can look across the country and see that apparently and obviously there are some people that are getting access to quite a bit of Forex. So where are they getting the Forex from? And how come no one else can get it? I think that's a fair question, especially coming from a businessman. Now, I also think that Dr. Rowley would have been responding with other things in mind, because at the end of it, his last sentence before he initials it, he is saying you are overdoing it now. So obviously he's talking about a series of actions that he has determined Mr. Ishmael has been overdoing it on. But to get yourself riled up in personal tit for tat like that, I think is unbecoming. And just by the way, I'd like to have personal contact with the Prime Minister too. I would like if I could send out an email and get a person, even if he tells me I can go to hell, at least I'd get a response. I have some questions I'd really like to get over to him. So maybe someone could tell me where that email is. I'd like access to it, please. Because without that email and that personal access, the other choice we have is sitting through these press conferences like this one that the Ministry of Education gave. Now,